Hello everyone, welcome back. We all have experience with Genshin Impact's artifact system. The nightmares of getting bad artifacts repeatedly, the extreme hype to receive god tier pieces, and all the feelings in between. Today, we'll be covering the good, the bad, and the recommended changes that could be made to help improve Genshin's artifact system. Now let's get right into the video. Firstly, let's cover what's good about the artifact system. Some may consider RNG to be a bad game implementation, but in reality, it is one of the core features that make players return to the game. We could spend weeks to even months grinding for something we'll never get, such as a 50 crit value piece, all because of RNG. But it's that search for the dopamine rush when we do hit that high level piece that keeps bringing us back. RNG has been used across many games that players love. One example comes from one of my favorite games, TFT. Teamfight Tactics is all about hitting units at specific odd values and using randomly dropped item components to help make those teams stronger. On top of that, each game consists of 3 randomly generated augments for you to choose from. This factor of RNG is what makes players return to the game so often, as it makes each time you play a unique experience. In Genshin Impact, the RNG doesn't come into play for the core gameplay, as each domain run will remain the same when using the same team comp. But the RNG of each domain run dropping different loot, such as 2 artifacts from the set you're looking for, or 2 artifacts from the set you're not even grinding for, is what makes players return constantly to keep up with. When Genshin was first released, I would have said that this system was horrible, as the grind could last so long you would get burned out completely from running artifact domains. That's until the release of the Artifact Strongbox, a new system that allows you to reroll 3 artifacts you didn't want into 1 new artifact of your choice, essentially recreating that RNG moment without needing to spend the extra time running a domain. Although this system isn't without its flaws, it was a great addition that helped better the current Genshin Impact artifact system. Continuing on, let's talk about the bad aspects of Genshin's artifact system. As we just finished covering the Artifact Strongbox system, let's touch on that first. The 2 biggest flaws of this system are, number 1, the limited amount of artifact sets you can roll for, and number 2, not being able to pick which piece you want to roll for. For example, only wanting to roll for goblets, circlets, or sand pieces because you already have good flower and feather pieces. Furthermore, let's talk about the core problems with Genshin's artifact system. I want to ask, as a player, are you aware of the probabilities to roll a certain stat on an artifact in the game? Up until this video, I was oblivious to just how rough it could be. On your screen, you'll see the listed odds for main stat rolls for sands, goblets, and circlets. As you can see, the 3 core stats of HP, defense, and attack take over 50% of the possible roll values for main stats, and over 80% of sands pieces will roll one of those 3 stats. This is especially rough when we look at goblets, as each elemental damage type only has a 5% chance of appearing for each goblet you attain. It does not get any better when we get into substat rolling, as this is when flat rates get introduced along with their percent values. Here, you should be able to see the substat roll odds for all artifact types. No wonder why we keep getting defense rolls, huh? Not only does this system minimize the rates of getting desired substats such as crit values, energy recharge, and elemental mastery, but on top of that, if you get lucky to receive any of those stats, you also have to contend with a second RNG system of low-high rolling. Here, there's a 25% chance for you to hit 70, 80, 90, or 100% of a roll value into a substat. We mentioned earlier that RNG can be good as it brings players back into the game, but having too much RNG on top of all other grinding you have to do for a character such as talents, weapons, and level books becomes too exhausting to have to keep up with constantly. Adding on low high rolls on top of already low probabilities to get decent artifacts feels like it becomes more of a household chore than a fun risk and reward system to get something good. After covering both the good and the bad of Genshin's artifact system, I want to make a few recommendations that I believe would make for a more enjoyable experience for players. To make note, we will not be abolishing the entire RNG system, as once again, I feel that as a core necessity for bringing back players into the game. The first recommendation I have is to remove the low-high rolling system. There should be a fixed rate in which artifacts always roll 100% of their max value for substats instead of breaking into 4 potential sub values onto already existing substats. This will keep the RNG of which substat will be rolled into, but remove the hassle of finally getting good substats, but they all low roll, making the artifact feel just as useless. The second recommendation I want to make is with the Artifact Strongbox. As mentioned earlier, I think it would be a good idea to allow players the choice of which pieces within a set they want to roll for, to avoid rolling 6 flowers they don't need when they wanted goblets, sands, and circlets. On top of this, a new system can be implemented in which we can use our lower tiered artifacts to craft higher tiered ones. For example, we can use 5 tier 1 artifacts to make a tier 2, 5 tier 2s to make a tier 3, and so on up to 5 tier 4 artifacts to make 1 tier 5. If this system feels a little too strong, it can easily be an extended aspect of artifact strongboxes that is locked behind world level 8 so as to only include players that are primarily rolling 5-star artifacts. The third and final recommendation I have is to allow players to make artifact loadouts on characters. This would be great to allow players the opportunity to quickly try different builds for characters to see which they like the most. I found a good example from Reddit user Vertitur, I hope I'm saying that correctly, on how the system could potentially look. Through this image, we could see 3 possible loadouts in which we could quickly switch between to try different builds on our favorite characters. With those 3 recommendations, we'll have to see what Hoyoverse chooses to do with Genshin's artifact system in the coming years. Let me know down below if you have any further recommendations you would like to see added to the system, but with that being said, I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, as we have a goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2023, and it would be greatly appreciated for you to join us on this Genshin journey. And with that being said, I will see you all later. So long, everybody.